Jagged Alliance 3, the sequel to Sotec Software's nearly 20-year-old classic Jagged Alliance 2, continues the series' tradition of billing itself as a fond yet satirical throwback to action movies of the 80s, complete with American jingoism and unfettered US good, everyone else bad mentality. In 2023, it often misses the mark following this formula, but the turn-based battles are just as satisfying as ever. You start the game as a commander hired to assist with the liberation of a fake, nondescript and sadly cliched developing African nation that has experienced a coup. With access to AIM, and no, not Marvel's Advanced Idea Mechanics, rather the boringly named Association of International Mercenaries, you get to hire any number of mercs to accomplish your goal of thwarting the coup. Recruiting and gearing up your mercenaries ties into a secondary narrative that hits a little too close to reality. Your benefactor is a diamond mining company, which funds your operation on the basis they support the missing president of the country, kidnapped by a fanatical group based in a mineral-rich valley they want to exploit. It's just a little too close to the reality of what has happened across the continent over the decades, with local warlords gaining support that lead to coups that coincidentally coincide with Western corporate interests. More recently, links between Russia's Wagner Group and various mining regions in Central Africa have come to the fore, showing how conflict in Africa is still fueled by foreign resource grabs. Of course, basing a game's story on real-world events is not something that should be forbidden or even frowned upon, as art can shed light on intense and difficult situations, but it has to be done well. Unfortunately, the story in this game is largely forgettable, beyond providing the basics of why you're tasked with defeating a large cast of mostly nameless enemies. Putting the questionable story beats aside, Jagged Alliance 3 is a brilliant tactical game that fans of the original games, as well as those of newer IP like the XCOM reboots and Phoenix Point, will enjoy for the tens of hours it'll take you to get through. Unlike those other examples, using action points instead of a fixed number of actions per turn gives you greater flexibility in how you approach fights and opens up way more tactical options. You can move and shoot and move again depending on how many AP you invest in each action. If you find yourself overwhelmed by the number of enemies, thanks to some tactically poor positioning on your part, you can even spend extra AP to increase the chance of severely injuring or killing an opponent per shot. It's a great risk-reward system that enables you to gain the upper hand in a fight, but may leave you exposed and isolated. Another tactically advantageous mechanic, or at least one that helps you slow the enemy down, is the returning ability to target specific body parts. The first time I managed to get a sniper into an elevated position and take a headshot and watch it pay off with an enemy's head exploding was one of the most satisfying moments during my playtime. The system works even better when an enemy is in cover and only their leg or arm is sticking out. Being able to target a limb is just that little bit of extra damage you might need to get through a game designed to be tough. Levels play out as a mix of real-time and turn-based, similar to the system in Mutant Year Zero: Road to Eden. While you're undetected, you can move around the level freely, including sneaking up and dispatching unsuspecting enemies to thin out their forces. At times, it reminded me of real-time tactical strategy games like Desperados 3, where you can scan the battlefield for the optimal path to that one isolated enemy. When enemies eventually detect you, you'll cry out in frustration when you realize they get a free turn to run into cover. Early on in my playthrough, I tried to sneak up on an enemy, and, because I wasn't patient, walked right into his line of sight. After screaming out an alarm and firing his gun, he scampered off to cover and left my mercs sitting in the open to face every enemy nearby. After that, your tactical turn-based skills come to the fore, or in my case, shows your shortcomings, as you then use your mercs to kill and clear the immediate threat. At this point, it's worth bringing up the presentation, as Jagged Alliance 3 looks great, even if it's not pushing any technical boundaries. The level design is wonderfully varied, from jungle paths to small villages and large cities, all rendered in a modern 3D engine that looks attractive and often beautiful. More importantly, the levels are clearly designed with tactics in mind, offering natural and man-made cover, as well as different elevation levels that give you a tactical advantage, or put you at a tactical disadvantage. The sound of gunfire and explosions is fantastic, as is the backing soundtrack. I just wish the mercs would talk a little less. Now, your mercs are ultimately the heart of your operation. Without them, you can't fulfill your contract, and the country will continue to suffer. As in the prior games, those mercs have certain specialities and skills, but they're not locked into a specific path. That earlier anecdote about sniping from a high position was actually performed by my medic, seeing as I got my sniper killed earlier in the mission. There's a light RPG element to the game, as each merc levels up during the course of the game, and the skills are improved the more they use them. Thus, my medic eventually became a long-ranged Hawkeye as I progressed, while still retaining their ability to heal injured mercs. Between missions, you can assign mercs to scout new areas to uncover more information about the enemy, supplies, or even hidden treasures. Alternatively, you can assign mercs to train other mercs in their speciality. More likely than not, you'll be assigning mercs to the recovery units, as sending an injured merc to battle always ends in disaster. Managing your mercs extends to who you want to hire and fire. As you start off with a limited budget, You'll have to hire who you can get at first, typically triers more than doers. If you spend your full budget up front on high-skilled mercs, you'll find yourself in a position where you have no money to support your continued operations effectively, so it's crucial up front to balance your ambition against long-term needs and gains. Overall, Jagged Alliance 3 is a welcome return to form for the franchise, and one that gives tactical combat fans plenty to chew on. The story is forgettable, which is a missed opportunity to satirize the brutal opportunism we see in the world every day, but the satisfying gameplay makes you forget about that while you're liberating the country, one stealth takedown or one headshot at a time. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow.